Good afternoon, guys. I made it. I'm here. Up. One person showed up. It's always good. 3 more. All right. Hi, Trevor. How are you doing? Don't know why they held your comment, Summer, in review. It must be the stars and the heart. They're like, you need to review this comment to make sure it's safe for other people to see. I'm like, okay. I like it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Frankie Gore, hi. Hello. Hope you had a good Mother's Day. Missed the live so much. Yes, I missed it too. But I got a chance to spend some time with my daughter, which was good. Trevor Lane says, great, love listening to you. Want to say thank you. You're welcome. As I told everybody, I came down with shingles, which is no fun at all. I'm not happy about it, but I am getting better. And I'm not in extreme pain all the time at this point, so that's good. Christian Fall says hello. Hi, Christian. Boy, I have my fluids I have to keep pushing, so I'm doing coconut water today. So I'll be drinking throughout this. The antiviral that they have me on apparently is extremely dehydrating, so, and then I got off of my antiviral schedule this morning, so I had to bring in my medication and my phone to let me know when it's time to take the next dose. They have me on 4,000 milligrams a day, so it's a pretty high dose. Oh well. So Trevor says, we've been having issues with something, taking things and not giving them back. Any recommendations? It's always fun to set up a hidden camera, see if you can catch it in the act, find out who or what is taking your stuff. They have those nanny cams. That'd be interesting to see if you can catch anything. But if you think it's a supernatural being of some kind, a couple of options. You can sort of firmly say, put it back where it belongs. I'm going to leave the room and come back in, and it better be where I put it, or something to that effect. And often that works for me. And sometimes you can give an offering to the fairy folk if you're comfortable with that, but don't accuse them of taking your stuff, because they might have taken your stuff, but they might not have taken your stuff. And if they haven't taken your stuff, then they'll be offended, like anyone would be if they were accused of taking things that they hadn't taken. So you can put out rice, milk, and honey. You can put out some stones, some colored glass with it or by itself, and when you place it out, ask them for help finding the things that are missing. One of my friends was having trouble with stuff that she lost, and she did that. And although she hasn't found the stuff she's looking for, a bunch of other stuff that she forgot she was missing has popped up. So, yeah, you never know what you'll end up getting. It can work. So that would be my recommendation. And then just pay attention to your environment and keep your eye out, because it might show up in an unexpected place, especially if they took it and they're trying to put it back without getting caught, I guess. So that's what I would do. Canary says, hello everyone. Hi, Canary. Trevor Lane says, awesome, I will try this, and let us know how it works, because it's always good to find out that it works. Amar says, hey everyone. Hi, Amar. I'm so glad to see you guys. Ian isn't here today. He's having a panic attack right now. I had my first full-blown panic attack a couple of nights ago and ended up back in the hospital in the ER because I had no idea what the hell was happening, since I hadn't experienced one that intense before. So that was fun, but I'm fine. Mar says, I would find it hilarious if they hid my stuff. Yeah. Sometimes. I mean, I've had stuff that has come back in the strangest ways possible, like keys in particular seem to be one of the things that I've had disappear and then reappear in unexpected places, or reappear in front of my face and fall on the floor in front of my daughter and I, which was the best one, I think, because that one was sort of hard to explain. Ordinarily, keys aren't prone to just materializing in front of your face and dropping on the floor in front of you when you're watching TV. So that one was pretty impressive. So anyway, somebody did write in a question, and we did the video working with the Akaja last, since I didn't do a Mother's Day live show and decided to spend time with my daughter, which was nice to go to the park and just sit in the sun. We had a wonderful day here. It wasn't windy. It's been windy ever since, I think. So it was nice to just sit out on the grass and soak in nature and visit and stuff like that. So it was great. And Canary says, I've had a few disappearing crystals, ones I keep in a box too. Z's Sun Dragon says, greetings all. Hi, Z Sun. Trevor says, I was changing my oil and my drain plug vanished. Oh, God. That's an annoying thing to lose. No sign of it for weeks. Also, my grandma's partial has disappeared. No sign of it for weeks also. Well, that's both annoying things to lose, both of which you need. The drain plug you can probably replace without too much difficulty, but the partial is not so much. My glasses went missing that way once. Come to think of it, that was another thing that vanished, but that was so that I could get new glasses, because I wouldn't go and ask for new glasses because I had glasses, and then my glasses disappeared and I needed glasses, so then I could ask for glasses. One of those mental gymnastic things that we put ourselves through. Z's Sun says some drawings vanished. Wow. They must have liked them. Like, a lot. Maybe. Who knows? I actually had two crows fighting on my lawn the other day, which was a surprise. Never actually seen them get into fisticuffs. They were, one was on its back and the other was on top of it fighting with their feet and yelling at each other, so it wasn't like having fun. Anywho, so the question that somebody wrote in too today was on how can you tell the difference between having a psychic spiritual experience and going crazy, psychotic, having a mental health disorder, which is a great question. I think that is something that it definitely I tried to address in at least one video, but it's always good to talk about. Canary says, I'm getting it done. I don't even know what it is. Good. Have you ever heard, have you ever heard of biofield therapy? I'm getting it done. I don't even know what it is. I've never heard of it. There's a lot of things out there. Sounds like they're working with your energy shield. I'm hoping that it is a worthwhile experience, and let us know what it is. Amar says, good question, mental health and psychic experiences. Yeah, and that's one that certainly I've had a lot of, wanting to be sure that I'm not going off the deep end completely. But I've gone into, I've done therapy any number of times for my various issues, and never, even with my weird experiences, never had the feeling that they thought I didn't have a grasp on reality, because that's why we do grounding. So we can keep a grasp on the physical reality that we're in, and that helps us to sort of navigate the potential other things. If you can't tell the difference between an imaginary visual experience and the reality of like a person walking down the street, then you could have trouble. Although I knew a clairvoyant once who could not tell that she was having a vision unless there were other people in the room not reacting to it, and then she knew that it wasn't real, and then she could navigate it that way. So that's still, just because she couldn't tell didn't mean it was a mental health psychosis or anything like that, because she could tell the difference if someone was in the room with her not reacting to what she was seeing. That's sort of an extreme version of that gift. Rose argument, yeah, it was kind of interesting. Canary says, in my early days, I naively thought there wasn't a difference. That could have ended badly. Yes. Uh, so, in thinking about this, it's like there's a lot of the times when people are having trouble adapting to being here for one reason or another. Either their brain's not functioning properly and they really can't distinguish between their fantasy reality and the physical real reality that everyone else can see, or they're in a crisis, they've had some kind of a crisis, and they're trying to create a narrative that makes them feel safer or more comfortable. Um, I've seen a lot of people nowadays that, like, they see a movie, they think it must be actually real. They can't tell the difference between a fiction fantasy movie and actual life experiences, even psychic life experiences. Saw a show the other day where one of the characters believed that he was in the Matrix, and he was refusing any kind of medical care because he thought he had taken the red pill and it was waking him up, and he was about ready to die because of it. So if you're in a state where you would be willing, the urging of the reality you're creating in your head would put you into physical harm's way or allow you to let yourself become harmed, that would be a definition of a psychosis or at least an extreme mental health problem. But yeah, there's like so many different fantastical realities out there that people jump on all the time. From we're living on a flat earth and there's a dome over it because there was a movie about a reality that was a TV show, The Truman Show, where there was a dome and that all the stars and everything we see are projections on the dome, which is why some of them are building rockets and trying to get there so that they can crash through the dome and prove it to the rest of us. It's like if it interferes with your ability to function, if you can't take a bath or go to the store or talk to your neighbor or make a phone call or go out of your house or, something like that, then it's probably not a psychic spiritual experience. Although you can have some intense negative psychic spiritual experiences, like when I had that thing attack me when I was a teenager and throw me down, pin me down on the bed, try to take over my body. I think is when we get those extreme things, it makes it a little more difficult even to tell the difference. But, I took control of the situation. I got it away from me and it didn't happen again. So sometimes it's about, like, usually some kind of a fantastical reality will continually repeat itself, and everything will always go as you expect in that version of reality that you're creating in your head. So if you have things that are surprising, unexpected, make you look and go like, wow, I never would have thought of that, that can help to distinguish the difference between them. But sometimes those experiences can lead to an unmooring, like when I had that over a year-long hallucination thing that went on. And I had to actually figure out how to distinguish the difference between the thought forms that I was seeing that were all around me, which I know were coming straight out of my subconscious and just sort of proliferating around the universe, around my experience of the universe, and choose reality and like a tree. So the more we can interact with actual nature reality, like one of the things I did then was looking at a tree, looking at the leaves of the tree, seeing the leaves of the tree, reminding myself that a tree was beautiful and that whatever those things were that covered the entire tree weren't not really there. So sometimes you have to choose reality. Yeah, it's tricky. Definitely can be tricky. Okay, so Emerald Dawn says, hello, sorry I'm late. Hope you're feeling better. I am. Katrina says, hello, I just wanted to say that your video on natural authority really helped with my paranoia. I've always been scared of spirits coming into my space, but that lesson has made sleeping much easier. That's awesome. because that's part of the thing, is like fear is one of those things that can drive us into situations and make us feel powerless and everything else. And so you really don't want to encourage feeling that way and taking charge and taking control of your environment. I was having a talk with a friend of mine, and she was talking about Robert Monroe and having his experiences with other beings on other planes or whatever, talking about how we tend to leak things out. And I thought that was a pretty good description of the thought forms and our inability to be silent and still in our own minds, because if you can see thought forms, you can watch them like traveling around all over the place, even in the middle of the woods when no one's been there for a while. Sometimes I run into them. So yeah, it's but anyway, I guess we're just leaky. I don't know where I was going with that, but I found it interesting trying to do the video about the Akasha, because it is such a ephemeral, like not solid subject to discuss and talk about. And so that's the reason why grounding, balance, and centering is important, because that's, again, if you meet somebody who's just sort of existing in one of those kinds of states, they can't interact with people, they can't do anything. I think the guy who was one of the originators of Eckankar, when I read his books, I stopped reading those books pretty fast, because they kept telling you about the astral plane and then all the dangers on the astral plane and how this thing could kill you and that thing could kill you. And I'm like, if I keep reading this book, I'm never going out of my body again. That's it. I'm finished. But one of the things I got out of it before I stopped was the fact that the guy who was in charge had so little control over staying with his body. He was constantly traveling out of his body, that he had to have a group of people take care of him. They had to like make sure that he ate and didn't run out into traffic and, you know, and all this other stuff all the time. So I'm like, that doesn't seem like a very successful life to have if you can't control anything. And that's one of the things that happened when I got the shingles and the medications that they put me on, and then the inability to sleep because of it. And when I stay awake for too long, I often lose control of my astral form, and I kept finding myself watching traffic. I'm like, I could have been doing something more interesting, I thought, but no, I'm just watching traffic. I'm watching vehicles go by, and red truck hauling a boat, turning, and I'm like, the hell am I doing this for? So I got kind of annoyed that I kept flopping out of my body and finding myself somewhere else doing something mundane and silly. At least it wasn't dangerous, I guess, in that sense, but I don't like not being in control. And so that really sort of sent home that message that the things that we put in our body can seriously affect our psychic abilities and clairvoyant abilities as well as our physical body. And when you're an extreme sensitive, you have to be more cautious about what you put in your body, because, yeah, my granddaughter was using aspartame and having doomsday attacks, and it took us a while to convince her to stop, and she was like absolutely in a pure panic constantly because of the chemical in her, you know, affecting her brain and how she perceived the world. So it's like there's always this kind of fine balance between things where you have to figure out what works for you, what you're able to put up with because the benefits outweigh the risks or the results, and everything else. And yep. And herbs can be dangerous with medication, Western medication. So knowing what anything you put in your body does to you is important. It's important to know that information, so being as educated as you can about that. Because when I took aspartame and I had the doomsday attack, if I wasn't paying attention, noticing that it was different than normal for me to have this weird experience, like 3 days in a row at the same time of day, and then look at what I was doing and then discovered that I was taking it without realizing it because I hadn't read the ingredients on a vitamin supplement, which, you know, it's like sometimes you're like, why do I have to read all the ingredients on everything? And I made the mistake of trusting the, the source. I figured they wouldn't sell anything that was dangerous. And certainly they could take aspartame apparently without any side effects. So, yeah. So paying attention to that kind of stuff is just definitely important. And I'm glad that I had the shingles vaccine, because I think if I hadn't, this would have been way worse. So, none of them are 100% effective. So you got that kind of whatnot. So Katrina says, hello, I just wanted to say that your video on natural... Oh, I read that one already. Sorry, guys. Canary says, I think some of that talk of danger in the astral realm is just fear-mongering propaganda by people who want the power to themselves. I do know that there are negative energies about, though. Well, yeah, I mean, or energies that might be inimical to us. They may not be negative in the sense of, is there really, good versus evil, that kind of thing. But certainly, bears are good for other bears and not good for the things that they hunt. Yeah. So yeah, knowing about your environment and being cautious is always a good idea. But when it comes to outside of your body, and the natural authority helps even when you're outside of your body, for sure, as well. And then there's the what you attract to you based on your energy and your thought forms and everything else. And I've been really thinking about projection because, okay, so I tell one of my friends that I have the shingles, and their response is, oh my God, if you didn't have bad luck, you'd have no luck at all. And I'm like, what? So then I have to work through this comment that she stuck in my head and unpack it, as it were, and realize that, I don't know what she's talking about, what's going on in her head, but I'm not going to accept this as part of my reality because this has nothing to do with luck, bad or good. And it's that kind of thinking that gets people thinking that they're being cursed all the time because they equate this, that, and this other thing with bad luck. And if they have a lot of bad luck, then someone must have wished them bad luck. Instead of just being normal human experiences that we have, some are good, some are not as fun. But yeah. So that's one of those things, is like always having to monitor how you respond to other people's input, and some people's input really negative for your growth. And I think when people are wanting to change and become different people, that's one of the reasons why you start losing all of your friends or the people you think are friends, because then you don't fit their projection anymore. It's like you have to have, they've determined where you belong, where you are, what you are, who you are, what to expect from you, and now they can forget about it. And then you start to push through the boundaries that they've set for you and start acting out in their view, because you're now not being predictable the way they think you should be. And then they get unhappy because it's rocking their world as well as yours. And then you end up having to find new people that are more willing to accept where you're at and where you've changed to. So being able to communicate with people becomes more difficult depending upon where they are, like their ability to actually hear what you say, and then to ask questions to understand more about what you're talking about. So, yeah, Canary added, that kind of thinking leads people running away from black cats. And those poor cats, they have to hide them on Halloween because people kill them and torture them and everything else, which is just like horrific. It's like, what the heck, people? Don't do that kind of stuff. But yeah, superstitions are like that, and even if there's a reason behind them, if you don't understand the reason behind it and you're just blindly following the superstition, you can make it real for yourself because you're expecting a certain amount of results. And then you're programming your own mind to look for the results you're looking for, and that's, they call that confirmation bias. And that's something to watch out for, whether you're doing magic or anything. It doesn't matter what it is. If you have an idea in your head, this is the way it is, then everything you look at is to confirm that this is the way it is, instead of having an open mind and wanting to know how things actually are. And that makes a big shift in how you not only perceive reality, but how you interact with it. And I think that helps too, to keep you from, falling into a mental psychosis or what have you. I think if you can question that, you're probably not in that state. Because when Ian's sister was here, there was no way to talk to her at all. Her psychotic break was so severe that she never questioned her reality. So if you can question what's happening to you and look at it, kind of get a little overview and look at it from a distance, then you're much more likely to not fall into that kind of a pattern. It's those times when, we can't, that might say this is a mental health issue and you need help. If you have good friends, it helps too, because they can let you know. Jeremy says, hello, Jeremy. I'm going to take a drink now. Yeah, the staff at the hospital freaked me out about drinking coconut water when I was there for the panic attack. Yeah, it has a lot of potassium in it. It'll make your heart stop working. I'm like, I'm only drinking 1 can a day. Again, they have all their slots that they're trying to put things into. And, yeah, it's interesting. Our biases are more obvious to others than they are to ourselves. But if we can see our own biases, that helps us to figure out what's really going on and whether we want to do that or not, I guess. The pain was pretty surprising, since I wasn't sure exactly what was causing it. And of course, I had just weeded the garden and pulled a bunch of stuff, so when my arm started hurting, I assumed that it was because, I'd been pulling weeds too hard, and I pulled a muscle or something like that, but then it got worse and worse and worse, and then I thought I might have a frozen shoulder, but then I could move my arm up over my head, so I knew it wasn't that. It was when the blisters popped up on my palm that I knew something was wrong. You haven't experienced, you don't know what's going on, you go to someone who might know what it is, and in this case, they knew what it was, so it was nice to know what it was. So I'm glad. Anyway, all right, get some water in me and let you ask me some questions about anything else. I know there's a whole bunch of you that get on and just sort of lurk in the background. And today might be a good day to, just put out a question about something you're interested in to see what comes out. You never know. I do have a bit of a gravelly throat today, but sit down for a bit. So what did you all think about the Akashic video? I know a few of you really liked it because you made comments, but Michelle says, hello, hi Siofra, hi Ian, hi Cha. Yep, nope, Ian's not here today, but hi Michelle. He had to leave. He didn't stay even in the beginning. Yeah. So, but it's me. Katrina says, this is probably a basic question, but do you have any tips on people who have difficulty meditating? My mind never stops running. Yeah, that's a problem a lot of people have. You're not alone in that. And it depends on how you choose to focus your mind as to whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, I think one of the problems is Ian has got this thing, he's trying to make total silence in his brain and have nothing in it at all. And he tries that so hard that what he has in his brain is like a headache. Because he's really trying to make it happen instead of letting it happen. One of the earlier ones that I did was accepting all the noises and things that are around you and just letting them be instead of thinking of them as interruptions. And same with your own thoughts. That's one of the things that we recommend is your mind is always running. Fine. let it run, but run in the direction you want it to. So have something to focus on. So if you're going to focus on like an image, a candle flame, a goddess, whatever it happens to be, and you focus on that, and then you start to notice that you're now thinking about the laundry or the dishes or what that person said to you at work, and then you like, okay, that's not what I want to be thinking about, so I'm going to like watch that go by and then get back to what I'm here to do, which is to focus on this other thing. And so the first training is about training your mind to focus on the things that you want it to focus on, instead of just letting it focus on any and all things that might exist in the universe. And don't try to do it for like extreme periods of time. You can start off with just a couple minutes, even 5 minutes, 2 minutes, doesn't matter. Just giving yourself a time frame, a daily time to do it, and especially in the beginning, is important, because that tells your subconscious that you're serious about this, and then you have more of your entire self working on that. You know, it's like sort of like when you're trying to remember your dreams, the same kind of thing. You write down, even if you don't remember a dream, you write down, I didn't remember a dream. I don't remember anything from last night, but I'll try again tonight. And, you know, before going to bed, write down, I'm going to write down anything I remember. And then in the morning, you didn't remember anything, I didn't remember anything. It's just like paying attention to the different parts of yourself. So with the meditational practices, giving yourself that it's okay to let to have your mind running. You notice it's running, and then you sort of redirect it to watching what you want it to watch, and after a while it'll become easier. And sometimes there's some forms of meditation where you're going to see a bunch of stuff, which is kind of cool. Like I've had some meditations where I remembered a past life, and it just sort of came up, and I started like seeing a scene, a scenario or whatever, and experiencing this complete other world or time frame or reality or what have you. And although it started off as a meditation, it turned more into a vision, memories popping up. And so it's about that, label thing again. If you have a book and it's labeled meditation, in order for it to work, must be like this, then you've already pushed out all other possible ways to meditate, and you're focused just on that particular method or that particular result. And every one of us is unique. We all have different needs for meditation and stuff. And I think one of the purposes of meditation is to recognize that you are you, and it's okay to let yourself pay attention to yourself. That's one of the things that we often have, where it's okay to pay attention to other people, but not okay to pay attention to ourselves, or all the different kinds of things that are out there. So that's what I would recommend. And you can do it with sound, not sight. You can do it with color. You can do it with a spot outside on the ground. You can do it with trying to become something like a tree or a flame, or a bird. It's like getting out of yourself actually can help you get into yourself. It's hard to explain, but it definitely can work that way. So that would be my suggestion. Michelle says, I just spent a few hours meditating deeply while painting some canvases. Yeah, and certainly there's different ways of meditation. You can meditate walking, singing, all sorts of stuff. Part of that is mindfulness, I guess. The best thing for me to focus is to draw something or paint. Danny Boy says, something we're not repeating because it makes no sense. Priestess Felisa says, thank you. Sven says, hi, I'm confused about the pentagram. Could you share how you see it, especially the order of elements starting from east, some associated with air mostly, some with water, some with fire? And yeah, there's some cultural and then different kinds of approaches to that. and you have to decide which pentagram you're going to use, which one's going to work for you. I did an entire video on the pentagram because there's a lot to unpack. So for me, if we're looking at the pentagram, and if you're looking at it straight on for me, this point would be what I would consider east air. This point would be west water. This point would be south fire. This point would be earth north. And this point would be spirit. Some people have them opposite. I've seen so many different kinds of pentagrams out there, it's crazy. But that is sort of a pretty traditional pentagram. But the most important part is not necessarily the direction the element is associated with so much as the element itself and understanding it. So I did put together a group of videos about the elements and the pentagram itself and ways you can deepen your understanding of it and how to use it, what it means, and everything else, because that's definitely one of the things I use most, I would say. Canary says, I seem to be continually attracting street preachers. Any spells to get them to go somewhere else? I don't know that there are any spells unless they're looking for people that they know are different and trying to sway them. So you might just look like, candy to them. I don't know. It depends on where their brain is. But getting rid of them once they're there, you can, do stuff that they don't like, or each one of them is going to be different. I've been able to get rid of them without engaging. It's like engaging with them is pointless. If their whole purpose is to try to convince you to think like them, and you don't think like them, and you're not interested in finding out how they think, which can be an interesting thing in and of itself, but not necessarily what you're after, then engaging any kind of conversation with them encourages them to continue, because they're looking for a chink in your armor in order to get you to interact with them. So not interacting with them is your best source or resource when it comes to that, because you're not going to convince them that they're wrong, and if you're solid in your own beliefs, they're not going to convince you, and it's sort of a violation of your personal space to invade it without an invitation. So you have no obligation to be polite. You can if you want, but you don't have to be. I mean, this all depends on how you want to do it. But whenever it comes to like arguments, things that turn into arguments, people that are trying to force you to interact with them on their level, it's sort of like psychically, it's like they're throwing hooks out. They're trying to grab something, some trigger of yours that's going to make you angry and make you want to engage with them to defend yourself or whatever. And then that's a success as far as they're concerned. So the less you can react to what they're doing, it's like they have their path, whatever it is, whether it makes any sense to us or not, doesn't matter, because it's their path. And, if they're being a bully, oh, okay. That would be my timer to take my pill. Where's my pill? I put it over here. Here it is. So yeah, I'm not sure about spells that will work for that kind of thing. Sometimes spells are it's not always the go-to sort of stuff. It's not the only thing that's in our arsenal. So, although I rather like the turkey curse, I think that one works pretty good. The turkey curse comes from a book of chaos magic. And you stand there and put your hands out and then start screaming gobble, 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 really loud. Usually it frightens people and they run away. Or you could have some salt in your pocket and throw it at them. And you can say, I banish thee, I banish thee, I banish thee. I don't know. Be creative. See what you can come up with. Because, people that are in that kind of a mindset, they don't pay attention to normal social cues because they're trying to be assertive and get in there and do their thing. That's all I can say. All right, let's see. All right. wait, I think I missed one. Let me go back up here. Namar says, also regarding the pentagram, have you noticed a change in energy and magic when the star is up versus down? Well, if you want to look at it, up is, spirit is up. So if the spirit point is down, the whole point of that is to manifest what is in the Akasha in physical reality. So it's a way of bringing the energy to Earth and making it here, even though it's still spirit. So yeah, I would say that. The Wiccans have stopped using the inverted pentagram for one of their degrees because of the Christian freak-out attacks about inverted pentagrams and Satanism and or Satan and all this other stuff. Anyway, just a symbol. It's how you use it that counts. So Sven says, check it out. So Canary says they turned up outside the stall I get crystals and sage from, but they are popping up everywhere. One even trying to start an argument with me online. I just attract these people. Yeah, I think I've answered that one pretty well. Mar says, good point on street preachers and converter consciousness. Even when I tried to discuss and understand, they were still agitated because while I was looking for equality, they wanted to change me. And Canary says they aren't interested in genuine conversation. Canary's going to try the salt thing. I always thought that was sort of a great idea. You know, it's like, think outside the box. It's like, do something completely unexpected. Be crazier than they are. That can work, you know. Yeah, I don't know. Think, you know, see what inspiration comes to you and see what happens. But that is the thing. It's like, it's like the urge that human beings have to make everyone like them, I think comes from a desire to keep things the same and not have to think for themselves, not have to change. Because, I mean, if you think about it, if everyone is like you, then there's nothing to bother about. You don't have to do anything. No one's rubbing you the wrong way, and, you know, there's no potential need for you to change. And when people do change, often they try to pull everyone else with them. I have a colleague who is doing, I think, the blood type diet and a bunch of other things, and she thinks that this is going to be good for absolutely everyone, so she wants everyone she knows to do it, and she's extremely pushy about it. My mother used to say the phrase, there's no one as self-righteous as a reformed prostitute. And that sort of is what that is about. Is like when somebody gets what they think is an aha, this is how reality works, this is what we all need to know. Or, you know, this is what I did wrong and everyone needs to stop doing that. Are all different. So, yeah. Apparently I'm in the Akasha today. My mind is wandering pretty good. Amar says, I agree, that's what I feel about the stars. I love the way the inverted one feels. Yeah, it all depends on what you're using it for. Canary says, the power of Christ compels you. I'll respond with, the power of my sage compels you, and start waving it at their face. Or you could just be very concerned about them. Like, you know, I'm seeing a hole in your aura. Can I put this crystal in that hole and fix it for you? Here, and just start going, and I need to get this negative energy. You've got this really negative dark cloud around you right now, so let me do the sage on you and banish. You could, like, be really sweet and nice and completely freak them the hell out, and you never know. I mean, I figure all bets are off. One of the reasons why bullies never stop bullying is because no one ever tells them they're a bully, and they never seem to have to deal with the consequences of that. And really all of this is about accepting the consequences of our own choices and our own, you know, taking responsibility for how we go forward with that information once we learn it, and how we use our energy and interact with other people. I have someone sent me a apology for something, no one of you, but I read the apology, and it was basically a series of excuses about his behavior, to explain why he had been a bit of a butthead, or an extreme one, actually. And it wasn't really an apology. It was just a series of ways to explain his actions and hoping that I would just accept that as an apology and move on. And I'm like, it's not an apology. I'm not getting an actual apology. I'm not interacting with this because this isn't real. Hasn't figured it out, hasn't learned whatever it is he needs to learn. And so, that's one of those things. Like, I look at how people are actually acting, not by what they say and giving an excuse. That's one of the things. We are responsible for our actions. We can choose to share that thing or not share that thing. We can choose to say that thing or not say that thing. We can think that thing and not do anything about that thing. That doesn't make us bad if we think that thing. That's right. I had this, when this is an example that Ian went through of that whole idea of blaming yourself for thinking things. Years ago, when we first moved to the area, we went to the country fair, and I was working at the country fair as a massage therapist, and he was working and he came up to visit me, and so I was walking with him through the fair. We were looking at the other things. I was taking a break, and we walked into one of the barns. The 4-H club has lots of animals and barns and stuff, and this barn had various pens of pigs. There were, all individual pens with pigs in them for, show or whatever for the judges to look at. We walked in the door, and I saw this young girl on top of the fence around this pig pen. And we're talking, the fence post, the fence is like narrow like this, and it's like, I see this, and I'm like, she's going to fall. And I don't know if she's going to fall in the pig pen or out of the pig pen. And if she falls in the pig pen, that could be really bad. That's not a good place to fall. And it's not good to fall anywhere, but that'd be even worse. And I just start running as soon as I see her. And sure enough, she falls off the fence. But she falls on the outside, thank goodness. And she lands on her back. And I'm there almost instantaneously. And I'm telling her to, don't move. And I tell Ian to go to the first aid station to have somebody come back to check her out, because they have them there. That's why they're there. They should use them. And although I've got plenty of first aid training, it's like, I don't know the facility, or, if there's supplies that are needed, get somebody here. And I tell her not to move until she's checked out, because I don't know if she's hit her head or she's, who knows what. So they come in, that's taken care of, we leave, and I'm done with it. It's like I did my part. I don't have to do the whole thing. I got the right people there. And I think it was maybe 3 years later, and we're laying in bed getting ready to go to sleep, and all of a sudden Ian says, "You're just a much kinder person than I am." And I'm like, okay, where's this coming from? Why are you saying this? Like, what is happening here? And he says, well, you remember that girl that fell in the barn? And I'm like, no, because by then I'd forgotten all about it and didn't remember it all. And he tells me the story, and then I remember, oh yeah, I remember that. He says, yeah, well, when you saw that scenario, the first thing you thought was there's a child in danger, something bad may happen. And I thought, what a fat, funny-looking girl. And he's been, tormenting himself for having this random thought. And I'm like, okay, now you need to stop that. For one, I'm a mother. I've been a mother for years. I am designed in my motherhood form. Whenever I see a child, the first thing I look at is there a potential accident about to take place in this scene? Because that's how I think. And I said, just because you don't know that and aren't, you've never had kids, you don't have that kind of instinctive reaction, doesn't mean that you're a bad person because you thought she was fat and funny looking. I said she was fat and funny looking on some level, but stop beating yourself up for it. So he had been torturing himself with this random thought that he hadn't said anything about, he'd not done anything wrong. And I'm just like, wow, that's a lot of torment for like a random thought that came through. So my philosophy is random thoughts are just what they are. They're random thoughts. Sometimes I'll see somebody and I think, oh my God, I can't believe they're wearing that thing. What the heck were they thinking when they put that on? But I would never go up and tell them that they're a terrible dresser. Maybe for some reason this is the most important outfit they've ever owned in their life and it represents some really intense emotional connection with a person who's passed on to the other side. Who knows? Or maybe my taste and theirs are just completely opposite. But I'm not going to torture myself for having the thought. And so, yeah, he has a lot of those kinds of examples, the poor guy. So Mart told Canary to have fun with it. In all seriousness, we have every right to the energy in and around us. Canary says, of course we do. Maybe I do learn to just have fun with it. Yes, I like that one better. Mart says, how have you navigated day visions and voices when asleep? In terms of getting a conversation going or holding them so you can get to the bottom of them, if that makes sense. Let me think. So if you like are seeing something, hearing something during the day while you're sleeping, well, okay, if you're going to have to be more specific because my little brain is trying to make it day and night when you're sleeping at the same time. So trying to get to the bottom of like a spirit thing or a vision. Charity says, glad you're better. Thank you, Charity. I am too. Miranda says, hello. Wow, I'm finally on a closer time schedule for the live streams. I just moved back to Hawaii. Wow. Congratulations. You know, we have a full blood moon eclipse coming up next week. So I think it's next week. It's the 28th. Maybe it's 2 weeks. Yeah. So that'll be fun. And it should be good in Hawaii. Apparently, the farther west you are, I think, the more of the eclipse you get to witness. So being in Oregon, if we don't have a cloudy sky, which is like 95% of the time, we should have a good view. So congratulations for moving to Hawaii. And hopefully you'll get a good view of the eclipse. So yeah, I mean, we probably punish ourselves better than anybody else on the planet ever would and hold ourselves responsible for things we don't have any control over. So just remember that. It's okay to be nice to yourself. You don't have to, like if you're going to meditate every day at a certain time and you miss it because something happened, that doesn't mean it's the end of the universe as you know it. It just means you do it later or you do it the next day. You just sort of keep on reaffirming it and keep on trying to add it back into whatever you're doing. So, all right. Been almost an hour. So, well, Miranda, what questions do you have for us since you're here now? And all the new people that showed up? Miranda says, I didn't know there was an eclipse coming. Thank you for telling me. I know just the spot to go see it. Awesome. I love lunar eclipses. It's such an easy way to prove that they're round, That's the thing I like about the lunar eclipse is like all of a sudden there's a real giant ball hanging in the sky. It's like, wow, that is actually a ball, not just a weird light. It's amazing. It's awesome. So Tony says, I needed to hear that today, beloved. I'm going through it and I've been sad all day. I'm usually super positive. Well, yeah, that's definitely the thing is like I said, we judge ourselves. It's like I thought of doing a video on how it's okay not to be magical when you're sick. Considering what I've been going through this week, it's really hard to focus when your arm is on fire and it feels like it's trying to separate from the rest of your body. It's like, if only I could just leave it behind whenever that happens. Usually when I want to leave my body like that, it just doesn't work. It's just the pain keeps me there. But yeah, it's like, you're always going to go through different stages. And, because of that, right, because I couldn't do much of anything else, I started a new art project. Somebody asked me to bring it in to show it. I started trying to do an octopus. Let's see if I can get this close enough to the camera so you can see the beginning of my octopus here. And maybe a little closer. I'm going to make a lighter eye, but this is the outline of his head, and I started the outline of the 8 arms, and I want to make this 3-dimensional. So my plan, it came to me like when I was talking to a client, and what I want to do is like do weaving a flat thing that goes this way, and then wrap it around to make them 3-dimensional, so then I can wrap the tentacles around each other. So this should be interesting. Well, hi, Priestess. Thank you very much for the super chat. And I'm going to use pearls for the suckers on it. So it helped me when my arm was working. I had to wait a while. I couldn't do anything for a bit because I couldn't use my hand at all. My hand is working better, and the pusty things are going down. I still have one that's raised up pretty good, but it's like on my palm, between my fingers, up the back of my arm, up in here, and so it like radiates all the way out and behind and stuff, which is how they could tell that that's what it was. So Marinda says, honestly, I just wanted to drop in to hear you talk. I've been reconnecting with energetically to Pele. Oh yeah, I met Pele when I was on the Big Island. Tony says, also attended my first online death cafe. Saturn returns are funked up. Oh yeah, I needed to hear that today. Yeah, the Saturn returns are definitely interesting. My granddaughter's going through one of those, and she's definitely getting the intense stuff. So yes, it was very interesting for me to meet Pele. She came to me in my dreams several times, and I actually got to dance with a Pele dancer at a ritual at the City of Refuge on the Big Island on the harmonic convergence in 1986, I think. I think that was in 86 or 80, no, maybe 87. I have a t-shirt that has the date on it somewhere. Writer says, oh, I'm so late. Glad I got here. Hope you're all well. How are you and Ian doing? And then Ian's been going through abdominal cramping and stuff. We think he might have a bowel blockage. So he's been pretty miserable too. When we're both miserable together. I guess we're getting it out at once. Hope you're feeling better. Yes, I am feeling better. Nisha is on. She says, my question as well. I hope you and Ian are both feeling better now. Yes, we are definitely feeling better. Marinda says, the energy here feels very alive and the manifestation happens so quickly. I feel that the moving lava definitely contributes to that. Well, yeah. And you must be on the Big Island then. It's definitely very much a vivid live presence that's there that I experienced when I was there. And it was interesting to be close to that kind of a vibrant living presence. And we watched 2 movies in the last couple of days. One was a movie about Hawaii, about a treasure hunt. It was on Netflix, was it? Yeah, that was on Netflix. And then I watched a movie that was from a Norwegian film about a myth about a guy finding the waters of life to save a king and queen, going on a quest with the princess and stuff, which had all kinds of fun mythical elements in it. It was nice and positive and lighthearted and wasn't too intense or anything like that. So both of those movies were kind of fun, and I watched them specifically for their cultural, mythological components, because I figure if you're going to watch something about a culture, it's best to watch that culture's perception about themselves rather than some crazy person from the United States' idea about what that means, you know. And it was fun. It was very fun. So yeah. And gotta get the coconut butter back in me here. Turn that around. Ava says, hi Siofra, how is the weather like where you are? Cold wind and sort of gray today. No rain. We've had a cold wind for about a week now, I think. Yeah. Ironically, it actually coincided with me having this outbreak with the shingles thing when I finally figured out what it was. So it's been that way for a while. So we're in some kind of a weather pattern. That probably means that it's getting hotter inland, because usually, since we're on the coast, when the inland heat starts up, it pulls the cold air over the ocean inland. Sort of like sucks it in, and that's when we get our good winds. So that's kind of what's going on right now. Marinda says, also, wow, that's amazing. She's come to me in dreams, but only as lava. I had a premonition of the 2018 lava flow, which was wild. Also, I was just thinking about volunteering at the refuge site. Yeah, the city of refuge I found was fascinating being there. Um, the way they have it set up, the explanation that they gave us when we were there was basically that's a place where non-combatants would go when there were battles between different tribal elements on the Big Island. And so the elderly and infirm and conscientious objectors and women and children would go to the city of refuge. It was also where someone could go if they were under a death sentence for a taboo that they broke, because they said that in Hawaii in the old days, if there was only one punishment for breaking any rule, and the punishment was death. And there was only one way out of that, and that was to make it to the city of refuge, because if you could get there, then the assumption was that the gods had forgiven you, and then you could come back to the tribe, because no one would kill anyone in the city of refuge. So I thought that was quite interesting. And when I was there, the people I ended up meeting, they did an altar burying crystals in the sand, and afterwards, it was at that ritual that I ended up meeting the Pele dancer, and there's probably about 25 or 30 people that went to that. And I didn't know any of them because, I had just gotten to the island and I was only there for like a week or so. And the Pele dancer picked me and one other woman from the group to dance with her in the circle when she did her dance. And I thought that was probably because that Pele had come to me and she knew it on some level. She picked up on that. So that was kind of interesting. Um, yeah, the whole thing was interesting. Anyway, after the ritual was over, because they had me helping to cast the circle and calling the directions and all sorts of stuff, because apparently they recognized me as a person who knew how to do that kind of thing. And sort of immediately incorporated me into what they were doing, which was interesting when that happens. So they brought out some of the crystals that they had buried for their altar getup, and wanted me to take one. And I actually have it here. I'll go pick it up. It's right out here. Or here for a second. Okay, I'm back. So this is the crystal that I picked out of all the crystals that they had. It's a pretty good size crystal, and inside of it is an occlusion that when you look at it from the front side through all the actual crystal stuff, it has the look of either a coral reef or some kind of a land mass or whatever. So it's kind of neat. It's like, to me, it's more like coral that's inside of it. And so the occlusions in this one are fascinating. And so this has been with me ever since. I mean, if it has a lot more significance than, just buying a crystal from a store, getting one like that for sure. And I've been blessed to have gotten things that way from people or from experiences that I've had where things have just sort of shown up. Hi, Jonathan. Glad to see that you're on. So Tony Fowler says, thanks for your presence, the fairy crone. I've always wanted to be a friend. You're welcome. And Katrina says, oh yeah, the heat where I am is intense, 90 to 100 degrees. Yeah, we're definitely not having any hot weather today. On Mother's Day, it was nice and warm out, so that was fun. But, yeah, so it's It's weather is what it is wherever you live. There's something to do. And the writer says, "What a beautiful piece." Yes, I love it. I haven't done anything except have it on my altar. It's on my moon altar, actually, since it was a nighttime ritual, and it just seemed like the right place for it. I even bought a little stand for it, so it's got its own little, kind of like altar on top of the altar. One of those from India, one of those little things that's got the 3 legs that fold up and stuff and has a little lid on it. It seemed like a good thing for it. Marinda says, very beautiful. Well, if you ever come back to the Big Island and hold a public circle of some kind, I would definitely come. Yeah, that would be lovely. I guess I have to wait. Well, we're not doing it right now, so if I ever do, I'll let you guys know for sure. Finding that public ritual was one of those magical experiences anyway, because it was my staff told me to take it with it to walk around to find the ritual I was supposed to be at. And it was the cashier at one of the grocery stores, the natural store, like health food store, really small one, that gave me the numbers of everybody who was having a ritual that weekend. And I called them, and that was the one I felt the best about. I got a good vibe from them, and so went to that. And that's sort of one of those interesting things. So Jonathan says, sorry, what was your answer just now when someone asked how you and Ian are doing? Well, we're both doing better. Ian's got some kind of abdominal blockage, so he's on some softeners as well as laxative. And tomorrow he has an appointment with the doctor to see if they can maybe get an x-ray of the thing and find out if that's what it really is. And I'm definitely feeling a lot better. I've slowed down on taking the pain medication they gave me. So today I'm only taking 1. Yesterday I only took 1. I started off with the 4 and had a bad reaction with the valerian root because it's a muscle relaxant and it increased the effectiveness of the narcotic that they put me on. And I don't usually do narcotics, so that was kind of interesting. And so I didn't get any sleep that night because I had to stay awake in order to keep breathing. But pain levels are definitely down in my arm. I still can't really use my hand to push on things, but I'm hoping that's going to change in the next couple of days so I can actually work on my clients this week. It's kind of hard to do a massage if you don't have a left hand. And then the way people ask you questions sometimes on your Facebook pages and stuff like that. I had one friend that decided to tell me she didn't think it was shingles because it wasn't in the typical location around your waist, and she went through this whole thing and thought I should have a second opinion, and I'm like, no. It's definitely shingles. So yeah, they mean well, but sometimes it's not very helpful at all. So writer asked Jonathan, how's it going? And we'd all love to hear how it's going. So yeah, and they, like I said, they freaked me out at the hospital about drinking coconut water because they told me it had too much potassium in it and I could get overloaded on potassium. It could interfere with my heart function. And they also kept wanting to know if I was doing pot. It's like they asked me if I smoked. I said no. I told them I can't handle THC, which I can't. Then later they asked me if I did edibles, and I'm like, no, they have THC in them. Did you not hear me the first time? Apparently they just figured I was lying or they were going to trip me up and get the answer they were expecting for some reason. I'm not sure. So yeah, again, it's like communication. Communication has definitely been a lot on my mind because people don't necessarily hear what you're actually saying and what you actually mean by what you're saying. Language is a strange experience. Jonathan says, thanks. I hope you both feel amazing too. You take valerian for sleep magic? No. I take valerian root for muscle spasms. I have some kind of an undiagnosed muscle spasm disorder. They have no clue what it is. And they've tried other, excuse me, hold on a second. Apparently I got let's try that again. They've tried other stuff on me. I'm going to try and talk through this, like quinine and things like that, which didn't work and didn't give me much results. And I discovered valerian root works a lot better. But apparently there's no way to let them know that. I mean, they don't have it listed as a potential interaction with the narcotic that they gave me. And I only figured it out because that's when it started happening. And I know that valerian root is muscle relaxant, and that's because that's why I'm taking it. And it did have interactions with medical muscle relaxants. So I'm like, okay. And I tried to like let the pharmacist know that there was an interaction. And she's like, there's nowhere to put it. There's no database for it. They don't. The FDA and the other guys, the FTC, don't talk to each other. Yeah, that was kind of frustrating because it's something, you need to know what what the herbs that you're taking might do with any medications you might be on. I found that with plantain root a lot, plantain leaves, excuse me, because plantain is a blood thickener. It's got a lot of vitamin K in it, and it's a blood clot agent. And in the physician's desk reference for herbs, they don't list that as one of its properties. So apparently they're not paying attention, and they don't have a way to let them know what is actually going on and stuff. So doing your own research, I guess, is the thing. And with the plantain, I actually had to become a Wikipedia writer to add that to the description of plantain, the herb, not the plantain that looks like a banana. So yeah, it's one of those things. Everyone's body is different, and you got to figure out how to take care of it. Jonathan says, I'm so glad I'm here. I love you guys. Ryder says, me too, to Jonathan. So it looks like I might have to cut this short. Apparently I'm having a bowel issue myself right now. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to have to get off and go to the bathroom before I do something I'm going to regret rather quickly. So we'll make up for it. Send me in some questions and stuff like that, and we'll figure out what the next video is going to be. But could be my medications affected me for that. But I better go now, otherwise I'm in trouble. So I'm sorry. Bye.